Right, talking about restarting, let's get started. So yeah, first Wisdom's Chat for 2021. So welcome, guys. I have no idea what you're talking about this morning, Lee, because I'm completely out of touch with everything. So restarting habits, Jasper, I don't know. Why would you want to restart a habit? Only if it's a good one, I presume. So hopefully not restarting any bad habits and get going on the right foot for 2021. So Lee, over to you.
Well, thanks, Ivan. So officially, it's not the very first Wisdom's Chats we've had for 2021. We started last week with Wisdom's Chats UK, and that was our second round or third. I also lose track. So Edward was a part of that. So Edward is an honorary South African when he joins us here, because he's now become such a regular. And we are honorary English because the last couple of Wisdom's Chats, it was just Edward and a group of South Africans. So, but that's how we started Wisdom's Chats for 2021. And today I thought we could just reflect on, and I know maybe you're tired of doing that reflecting, but it's the first opportunity we have as Wisdom's Chats to do that. And I wanted to phrase it like this: what do you take from 2020 into 2021? So what is it that you want to take? So it's not so much, so it's not the baggage. So don't think about the baggage that you're bringing. But what is it that 2020 gave you that was significant, that you want to pull into 2021? And I thought maybe if I get started, and I'm going to just say the things, and as I wrote the list, I thought, this is probably what everybody's going to say. So I'm sorry, I'm going to say what might be in your head already. But I think the first thing is the Edwards of my life, is the unexpected people that I've met, specifically through Wisdom's Chats, is these remarkable, amazing, interesting people that I've had incredible conversations with. I'm thinking of Mpumelelo, Mpho, Nozipho, Stella, Trevor, Carty. These are people I never met before. And have had incredible, deep, amazing conversations, and learned to understand their stories and their connections that will last. They're not fly by night. So that's definitely something that I take into 2021. I think the other thing, along with, I know many people, is new skills. And I think not just the skill itself, but the confidence that I can keep learning, you know, and that whatever technology comes along, you can figure it out. And if you can't figure it out, there's a YouTube clip for that. So I'm definitely gaining more and more confidence in terms of what I can learn. Or Udemy, by the way, that's the other go-to place that I've discovered as a place to learn. And from that, I've also, it's something I've learned in the past, but I learned even more so in 2020 and take into 2021, is that you can dig yourself out of a hole. I did plummet, not psychologically, but certainly from my business point of view. There was whole swathes of work that disappeared overnight. And just to realize that you can dig yourself out of a hole. And then the last thing that I want to say is that as much as you can adapt and change to circumstances, you need to remain true to yourself. And that's a lesson that was a hard one for me, because I kind of got swallowed up in the work, in the the work and the media and the, you know, everything that's coming at you, the pandemic itself, and maybe felt a little bit engulfed by everything that was happening. And it was just a slow process of saying, okay, Lee, who are you and how are you going to remain true to yourself in the midst of all of this? So those are my sort of introductory thoughts just to get us going. And Edward, I think maybe you might have been, I don't know if you got the email that highlighted what the topic was, but I'm thinking that maybe you did and you might have thought about it. So how about sharing your ideas?
Yeah, I did get the email, and I thought, well, it's strange actually, because with that topic, I can't do what I normally do and look in a dictionary to see what we're talking about. So I was sort of floundering about a bit. And then it was very useful because it did make me look back and think about the good and the bad and the ugly of 2020. And I think actually, for me, there were more good things than bad things. And I think it's because we had to change. And when you change, opportunities arrive. It's like there's a saying, life begins at the edge of your comfort zone. Well, we were suddenly moved out of our comfort zones. And it opened up huge opportunities. And like you, I met some really interesting people. You know, one of the very early things I did was to go to a green conference in Singapore virtually. I couldn't have gone there had it been, you know, normal. And it was fantastic because I met activists from all over the world. And it just repowered me to do more as an environmental activist. And it reminded me of a saying that I've forgotten the lady's name, an American author and environmentalist, that said, activism is the rent I pay for living on this planet. And I suddenly realized I hadn't been paying my rent, or I hadn't been paying enough rent. And it's given me great opportunities because I can now be active all over the world. I'm meeting many more people than I did before. And if I can influence them, and I think you hit on the key there, Lee, being true to yourself. If people see I'm passionate about something, I follow through on it, it's deep within me and it's important to me and I follow it through, then they're influenced by it. If it was just some gloss on the surface, then they wouldn't. But it's also showed me how, I don't know, samey people are, because everyone uses the same words. I am fed up of hearing pivot. I'm fed up of hearing unprecedented. And there's one or two other words. So it kind of showed me a lot of people haven't got depth, or if they have got depth, they're not using it. They're just living life on the surface. But it's also taught me the importance of friends, keeping in touch with friends, you know. And strangely enough, it's emphasized the benefit of the old technology. I've got much more out of telephone calls than I've ever had in the past. I've had some lovely long telephone conversations with friends that have been wonderful. And actually, it's been a relief not to be on Zoom. It's been a relief to have a telephone conversation. And I've treasured more when I've gone for a walk with someone. So those little things become much more meaningful. Yeah, so that's my view. It's just opened up a world of opportunities, made me an international person rather than just a a UK person that travels. And I've loved interacting with people of all different nationalities, all different faiths, all different locations, which I couldn't have done before. I could only done it occasionally by traveling somewhere. So I think, yeah, that's it. It's opened up opportunities, and it's made me think differently, and but also value more friendships, being in nature, simple things in life, like. And the other thing actually that it has shown me is how unequal a world we live in. For someone like me who can get out in the countryside, or in the UK, people have not been observing lockdown, they've been driving to beauty spots. People with a car with some money can drive to a beauty spot. A one-parent family stuck in a flat in some suburb of London or can't get out to a green space. And so it's really highlighted the inequalities in society. Children of middle-class parents can be educated at home because they've got books, they've got technology, whereas children of poorer families haven't got access to the internet necessarily. So COVID has kind of really teased out those inequalities in society. And again, it's perhaps something that it's highlighted to me that I should spend some time trying to fix, pay my rent a bit more assiduously. Yeah, those are my thoughts.
Right, thanks, Ed. Yeah, it is interesting, you know, how some of those things have come out. I mean, one of my daughter's friends is a teacher, and she teaches in a school that has quite a wide range of pupils, you know, from an economic strata perspective. And what they found is their workloads actually tripled, because they've had to do their normal work, they've had to do their work in preparation for those who can work online, and then they've had to do preparation for those who can't work online. So their workload massively increased as a result of these lockdowns and the restrictions of movement, and as you say, the inequalities and inaccessibilities for some people in society to access the things they need to actually grow and move forward. So some very interesting challenges. Right, Jesper, let's get over to you.
It's a heavy topic so early in the year, Lee. You know, we must ease into these things. So yeah, I made a few bullet points of just things coming to my mind as you were speaking, and the first thing that came to my mind is, come the challenge, come the solution. And I think in that there's a consolation for me to say, I have no idea what the future holds, but when it becomes clear what the direction of the future is, the solution will also reveal itself. So why stress about something that I don't know yet? So if I just look back at 2020, how we've discovered the virtual trade fair and the virtual mall and Zoom. I mean, Wisdoms wasn't on the air in 2019. You came on air in 2020. And now it's almost become an institution. And that has helped me to also clarify some things for myself going forward. And though I really hope that somewhere along the line, people will develop the herd immunity and we can, you know, get away from the masks. The thing that irritates me the most of this current lockdown is the wearing of masks. I don't mind the social distancing so much, but just getting back to almost again, and I think there is that definite need for socialization and interaction. And you know, to a large extent, we were blessed that at least with my family, I could socialize and interact as freely as before lockdown. But then in that, I think with changes in the so-called call it economic means that you used prior to 2020. And now you have to make peace with the fact that those means have just been wiped off the table. And, you know, I'm thinking in terms of our guest house and conference center. So what now? We haven't come to any big solutions there yet, but I think we're much more clearer in terms of what could be a sustainable next purpose for the place. And these things take time. And like I said in the start of my talk, is relax. You know, when the time comes, the solution will present itself, whether it's in the form of an equity partner or how, you know, the more clearer you can see the future, the easier it is to then start looking for the solution. So I think I spent a lot of time 2020 to try and get clear in my mind about the way forward. I think another thing that I was always a bit skeptical of the so-called news and the experts there, but I think 2020 completely freed me of the so-called experts. So I have an absolute distrust in news and so-called expert opinions, but in saying that, I also see a huge need growing for people like me to say, now, who can I trust? Whose opinion can I trust? So, and that comes back to surround yourself with a trust network, so to speak. So that, let's say, if it's something to do with IT, I'll go to Gavin or Ivan. If it's something to do with something else, I go to that person. So who in that field is now becoming my new trust resource, that I know they've done a lot of work in that, and they have a wisdom and apply their minds to know, to sift truth from non-truth. And then in terms of truth, then I think what saddens me, but it's the new reality, the Bible warned us of a time when people will call good evil and evil good. And I think we have now reached that time where the lie has taken over. And the media and everybody is on the bandwagon of calling the lie the truth, and anyone who stands up for the truth is then ostracized and made out to be a fringe fanatic or whatever the case may be. And I think we're going to see more and more of that. But in that, I'm comfortable because I know my inner truth, and I'm certainly not going to be silenced by what's going out there. But I can see that has become very prevalent in 2020. And then I think we've all been challenged to say, am I going to live by fear, or am I going to live by faith? You know, this whole revelation of the COVID and its devastation, you know, the first, when it was just announced, it was far away from all of us. But I think by now we all know people that have been severely affected, and some who've even died of COVID. So it's a reality, and it can hit home close. We had to deal with some of that over the Christmas period. My father had a problem with poor blood circulation in his feet, and he developed a bit of a blister or an ulcer, and he had to go into hospital to get it cleaned up. And part of the process is he has to be tested for COVID. The first test came back positive, but we said, no, it's nonsense. He has none of the symptoms. He is healthy, he doesn't cough, he has no loss of what do you call it, appetite or taste or whatever. It's a mistake. And our nervousness was because they now diagnose him positive, they will then put him in a COVID positive ward, and he will then come out actually positive, but he was actually going in healthy. So we delayed the whole procedure with a day, and the next, and we did another test privately, and the next test came back negative. So I am totally at loss and total distrust of these so-called tests, but just to think through the implication of sending a healthy person into a positive ward. That played heavily on our minds as a family. So in the end, he did go in. They did treat him in a separate hall altogether, and he came out healthy, and the procedure went well. But I could just see how what wasn't there before, because it was the whole COVID thing was far away from our family. All of a sudden, we lived close in proximity with each other. You now start playing this thing in your head of who is now COVID positive and what is the impact of this whole thing. And for a while there was actual fear that I had to act against very strongly, to say, nonsense, we're not going to live by fear. We'll be sensible and stuff like that. But I can see that we are right now in a world where people still had lots of hope and unrealistic expectations entering into 2020. The reverse is true. People are totally devastated, down in their spirits, and that's equally bad, because where there's hope, there's energy. Where there's no hope, there's no energy. So we need to become ambassadors of hope and ambassadors of truth, and say, yes, be sensible, but don't live by fear. And I think the good out of this whole thing, I think this whole nonsense that prior to 2020, 2019, you would see people following the lifestyles of the gangsters and burning up money and brand clothing and stuff like that. I think that has quickly been wiped off the table. And people have developed a huge appreciation for the bare essentials, minimalistic, and starting to appreciate things that you don't have to spend too much money on, but relationships, a good meal, those kind of things. Yeah, so I think all in all, if one can have this kind of platform where you can verbalize and make sense out of everything, and we can then go out and become these centers of hope and help influence people, I think I have lots of positive expectations for 2021, not because of 2020, but because of the whole lead up. So 2020 was just a further, what you call it, confirmation. And when you cut a tree in the forest, it would have those rings, and the dark rings would be the tough times and the white rings would be the good times. But a tree is never just white or just dark. It's the combination of good followed by dark, by good again. And I think for the people who have learned the lessons and are willing to put in them the effort and make the adjustments, this is going to become the start of another good cycle. Yeah, so that's me.
Thanks, Jasper. Yeah, it has been interesting, and you guys have, as Jasper said, you've gone very serious and very very intense to kick off 2021. So yeah, I think I'm going to just try and keep it a little bit lighter. But for me, it was a year of almost forced reinvention of myself. I think in many respects, I never saw myself being a Zoom facilitator and host. I never saw myself being a global ambassador for your partnerships for South Africa, and I never saw myself becoming a web developer and a provider of platforms for virtual trade fairs and virtual malls and things like that. So and all of that happened in a very, very short space of time. If one thinks about it, I mean, when we kicked off this whole thing in March, end of March last year, it was new to all of us, and for me, March to December, it's just been an absolute blur of activity. It's disappeared so fast, and suddenly here we are in a new year, and we've done a ton of stuff in a completely different mode, a completely different way of operating, a completely different mindset, and as Lee said earlier, I think it's it's actually very encouraging. It's very positive, I think, in many respects, because it shows, you know, our adaptability. It shows our ability to learn, our ability to change. And I think that's going to be absolutely key going forward into 2021. You know, we're going to need to continue to adapt. We're going to need to continue to grow, to change, to stay positive, as Jasper says, you know, to really look to see how we can actually create these ripples in the ponds around us that radiate out and help other people, you know, lift themselves up and start to look at things, you know, with new positive ways, rather than, you know, hankering for a return to normal, because personally I don't see that ever happening. I really don't. I think we're in a completely new phase in humanity's existence. I see us going through a number of these cycles, and if it's not COVID, it'll be something else. So there's no point in kicking against it. There's no point in getting negative about it. It's all about you know, the things we've been saying here this morning. Let's become global ambassadors, globally connected. You know, find new friends, new interests, new opportunities on a global scale. That's what it's enabled us to do, and do it from the comfort of our own homes. And if we can use that to inspire, to leverage, to grow the environments around us and improve the situation. I mean, you know, as Ed's passion is the environment, you know, the opportunities to actually benefit the environment by really leveraging these technologies are massive. You know, reduce carbon footprint, you know, reduce a whole bunch of different things that have been negatively impacting the environment simply because it's the way things were done. You know, and I think for me, that's, you know, that's being in that comfort zone, as Ed was saying. You know, you need to get on and beyond the edge of that comfort zone, and that's where we are right now. And I think, you know, let's not slip back into those comfort zones. Let's take this forward. Let's drive it and make things better generally, you know, for everybody around us. And as we do that, those ripples will definitely extend into the communities and the towns and the countries and the world around us. And if we can really do that, I think it's potentially a massive positive for the world. And if, you know, if we can encourage people to think along those lines and start to operate along those lines, you know, then I think it's 2020 has probably been one of, and dare I say it, one of the better things that's happened to the world for a very long time, because it's forced people to reevaluate. You know, reevaluate what's important, reevaluate what's healthy, reevaluate what's needed, reevaluate what's not needed, and adapt. And for me, when you do that, you grow. And that's what's you know, that's what I'm taking forward. So yeah, in summary, that's me. So Lee, back to you. I think we've done very well for 4 of us in our half an hour here. So let's see what's on the cards for the next.
Yeah, I think one of the things that I've learned from Wisdom's Chats, it doesn't matter how many people are on the platform, there's always going to be great conversations. So thanks everyone. So I did an exercise over the weekend. As I've said to you, if you know me, I'm a planner. And so I come to 2021. And as Edward says, you plan something and it's cancelled. So the opportunity to put things in place and to say, oh, okay, we're going to go on holiday now. And we're going to, so that's, you know, that's just not sensible at this time. We have no idea what the year will bring. And so I thought, okay, what am I going to plan? And so I hit on, and Jasper, you're going to love this, because it definitely has been stimulated by conversations with you. So I thought, okay, I can't plan this year, I can't plan next year. And it's not even about planning, but what is my vision? What is my thinking about the next 100 years? And I actually worked out that if I don't have grandchildren now, but if I have the potential of grandchildren, they'll probably happen in the next 4 years or so. So when my grandchildren are 100 years old, was my thinking. You know, what is it that I would like them to have? What is important for them that when they're 100? So I actually plotted what year I would turn 100, what year my mom would turn 100, what year my husband would turn 100, what year my children would turn 100. I took it very seriously. So I could actually see the years and how many years it would take to get to certain milestones. So I just wondered, let's just throw the ball into the court and say, what's your vision for 100 years' time? Whether it's for your family, your community, the planet. And so what is it that you would like to see happen for yourself and your family and community and the planet in 100 years' time? So that's the discussion for tomorrow.
Sure. Okay.
Or Jasper's heavy stuff.
Yeah. We take the legacy approach and roll it forward. Yeah. So reminds me of the story about old man Sony when he was 90. He sat down with his board and he did a 99 strategic year plan for Sony, the Sony Corporation. So yeah, no reason not to plan. So folks, have a great day further. Plan your next 100 years or few centuries if you can. Then let us know how it goes tomorrow. We'll see you then. Go well.
Thanks, everyone.